Hi, it's Marina J. How are you feeling today? Today, I want to talk about narcissistic brothers and the brother wound. So, when you've had a brother or you've had brothers who are narcissistic, it's a funny little interchange that begins to happen in the family. And it's one that I see very often with people who come to me where it is marked when you've got narcissistic brothers, it's very much marked by competition, control, dominance. So a lot of competition, a lot of competition, a lot of competition for attention. So maybe they got a lot of attention at home. They were asking for a lot of help. They were creating, right, situations where it was all about them. It had to be about them. It was never about you, right? There's a dominance there that comes in where whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you are talking about, do they dominate or did they dominate the conversation? And they had to be right. They had to be right. And if they weren't right, or you didn't see them as right, they would go into a rage and use emotional violence or physical violence. Now, this also can occur for sisters, right? This is not universally just brothers, but it's my experience when my clients come in and tell me that they've had or have narcissistic brothers, that competition, control, dominance are really key to how dysfunctional these relationships are. And when all you've got in a relationship is competition, right? Control, they want everything. They want it all to be their way. They're going to have a huge hissy fit if it's not their way, massive tantrums, right? And then parents acquiesce. And the dominance that comes with that, you might be the only one that actually stands up to them. But when you do stand up to them, you will then get the double whammy of your parents getting really angry with you because everybody is scared of your brother. Everybody is treading very gently around your brother. Everybody is on eggshells around your brother. And so that distortion that has occurred in your earlier years, I see that starting to play out. And just notice if this is the case for you. Is this playing out now with the men in your life? So if you had a brother, right, notice if this is playing out with partners, romantic relationships, maybe it's playing out with friendships, right? The people that your colleagues, the people that you work with. When we've had this experience, there's also a level of humiliation that comes in. And it's a humiliation of your softer, gentler, feminine parts, the parts of you. And this humiliation is like an attack on the feminine. So whether you are a man or a woman watching this, right, or however you choose to identify yourself, you will have a very big feminine part of you in you. And when we have a narcissistic brother, that narcissistic brother is going to make a play on the feminine because it will see that as the weakness in you that it can exploit. And it will do whatever it takes to exploit it, which means growing up, just notice, did you start to close up your vulnerability? Did you start to close up your gentleness? Did you start to close up your feminine energy, right? It's your feminine energy that gives you your light in your face, that gives you your glow, that gives you that feeling and knowing that there's sunshine, you feel well loved, you feel safe. If there was an attack on the feminine, right, when you were at home, notice if you wouldn't have felt safe, how creative you were able to be. How creative were you able to be as a kid? Or did you revert to being competitive with them because it was the safest place to be, even if maybe you're not a massively competitive person? So maybe you threw yourself into sports, or you threw yourself into kind of rough and tumble, the more physical aspects. And maybe when you didn't do so well as them, you could have been younger than them. Maybe when you couldn't do something, right, they sneered at you, or they laughed at you, They made fun of you in front of their friends. Now, that can be normal sibling rivalry as well, right? So I'm not talking about the normal stuff, but I'm talking about when it gets really extreme and when this is almost all the relationship, right? This is the relationship is, 50% competitive. And this is mostly how I experience my brother, is that I am humiliated. I'm humiliated for, not being able to keep up. I'm humiliated for being weaker. And I'm also humiliated for my gentler side. So the gentle side that we have, right, is a side that cries, is a side that feels pain, is the side that feels the gentler emotions, right, like fear, right? And so if we are not being fully supported, unconditionally loved, and made to feel safe by our brother, can you see how we're much more likely to close off and wear masculine clothes, not actually be overly feminine because we don't want to incite attack? And we're going to speak in a much more linear, useful way. And again, similar to the sister wound, we're going to create almost a persona that becomes functional, useful, and impenetrable. Okay, so that we don't allow anything in, but in not allowing anything in, it also is harder for us to receive love in. And what we might find is that when you are long after you've walked away, right, from the narcissist, or maybe you're still with a narcissist, but notice if you find it harder to accept love, to be loved just for who you are, or are you again thinking I'm going to be useful and then at least you can love the useful me, and I'm going to be kind and at least you can love the kind me, but I'm not going to let anybody really in because then they're going to see my weakness. They're going to see that I cry easily. They're going to see my creativity. They're going to see my fears, and I'm not safe for that to happen. Your brother, part of your brother's role was to keep you safe, was to look after you when you couldn't look after yourself, right? When you were a kid, was to stand up for you when you needed to be stood up for. Now, sometimes the brothers will do that because a narcissist in public wants the adulation. But at home, notice if they turned in to be the bully, they turned in to be the protagonist, and it was all about crushing you and obliterating you. And we've got a base chakra. If you understand about chakras, base chakra is like your base energy. And what I see particularly with people that have had abuse from a brother is that base chakra gets obliterated. That's your base chakra for feeling stable, feeling like you can earn money, you can create safety, you can accumulate wealth, you can create a very stable career. If you've had a narcissistic brother, sometimes it can feel harder to build those things for you in your now life. So just notice if that's happening for you as well. Also, because you have decided that it's not safe to be around the brother, notice if also then you've become the lone wolf who doesn't share your feelings very often, right? Because look what they did with them. Look what the brother did with your feelings way back when. And so the brother, because the brother is like the center, right? Has made himself the center of attention. And the whole world, the whole family revolves around the brother. He's also then taken the place as the receiver. If you're a woman watching this, right? The feminine is meant to receive. You're meant to receive easily. If it felt like your brother just was the one that got things easily and you just stayed on the periphery because it wasn't even worth it, then notice how easily you allow yourself to receive as an adult now. Because your brother would have been the one that took the feminine receiving, was like, I'll have that. I'll have mum's and dad's attention, or whoever your carer was. I'll literally suck everything in. I'll suck all the resources in. And notice if you didn't get the support and the love and the acceptance and that you receiving easily of it in. That's another thing, right? So that the brother takes that feminine receiving that you should have got. And the other part of it that I want to talk about is just notice with your brother's emotions. He might have been very closed up and maybe didn't share any of his emotions, but when he does share, he just criticizes you, or he just complains, right? Complains about you or complains about the world. Either way, he's like this sort of really dense energy that you just feel yourself, go down with sometimes. But emotions with brothers can feel, when they're narcissistic, particularly around anger, really scary, because they can just snap, right? They can snap and they can go into a rage within a heartbeat. So if that's you as well, people that have had narcissistic brothers can sometimes feel scared of their own anger because they've seen it modeled so frighteningly, so scarily, so disgustingly growing up, that you may have decided, I don't ever want to be like that. But in doing so, you too don't have a healthy relationship with anger. Maybe you feel that his anger can still control you, that you're still going to acquiesce. And again, that's all the emotional things. So I'm going to do a video around anger and anxiety and narcissistic abuse. So I will do that. In the meantime, if you have had harshness from your brother when you should have received softness and empathy, if you've had anger from your brother, instead of having the anger turned outwards at the perpetrators and him supporting you and taking care of you and looking after you and being the justice, right, that you deserved, I'm really sorry. I'm really, really sorry. Notice for you now, if you are unconsciously looking for a brother in the outside world. That could be a brother in friends. That could be a brother in your work colleagues. That could be that brotherly love in a romantic relationship. Notice again, if as soon as you meet with a new person, a new guy, you are already overly close with them, you're overly giving to them, you're used to unreceiving, you're used to receiving harshness back, and you tolerate that because that's normal for you. What's normal for you is that your feelings don't get looked after, your vulnerabilities don't get supported, and you get attacked when actually they should be standing up for the very person they love the most. So notice how that comes into your relationships now and who you're choosing, how quickly you get together with them. And again, notice, do you get disappointed really quickly? Because in a sense, you jumped in with them too quickly. It's almost like in a relationship where you're jumping into bed with them like on the first night, rather than just seeing how the relationship actually is and how they are with your emotional, spiritual sides, right? So I also I particularly see it with women and notice if this is for you as well, maybe you choose partners now, romantic partners now, who are competitive with you. And maybe you dress in a very masculine way. And maybe your relationship with each other is more like a parallel relationship, more actually like a brother-sister relationship, rather than that kind of feminine masculine power where you complement each other. Maybe it feels more like that. And that might feel great and right for you. There's no wrong or right. But just notice if that's where your relationships have been going. And so a great way to start is, again, to become more gentle with your emotional self. So if you feel angry, being gentle with yourself. If you feel sad, what can you give yourself? Instead of harshness, can you give yourself the softness that you deserve? This is how we flourish after narcissistic abuse, right? We start to treat ourselves in the exact opposite way that they used to treat us. I hope this really, really supports you, sending you lots and lots of love. Thank you for listening.